If you're preparing for a code review interview, this video is all you need. Here's why this round matters more than ever. If you're applying for a staff engineer or engineering manager role at a top tech company, you're going to face this interview. It's almost guaranteed. And here's something new. Even for mid-level and junior roles, companies are adding code review rounds fast. In some roles, it's already replacing the coding round entirely. Why? Because AI writes the code now. The real skill companies are testing for is the ability to review it. If you don't prepare for this, you'll likely get filtered out. It doesn't matter how sharp your coding is. I'm Vinay. I've worked at top tech companies including Google. I've personally conducted hundreds of these interviews and I've cleared interviews at multiple FAANG companies myself. So I've seen this round from both sides of the table many times. In this video, I'm giving you exactly what you need to clear it with flying colors. The 5-layer framework I use when I'm evaluating candidates. If you cover the first few layers well, you'll pass. Cover the 5th, you'll walk out with a strong higher recommendation. And at the end of this video, I'll share you 2 pro tips. Small moves, but they genuinely decide interviews. Stick around for those. Alright, let's get into it. Let me paint a quick picture of what this interview looks like, because a lot of people walk in with the wrong mental model. This isn't a coding interview. There's no DSA, no algorithms. You're not writing code from scratch to solve a problem. You'll be given a piece of code, usually somewhere between 100 and 300 lines. It will be written deliberately badly. The setup is often something like a junior engineer wrote this, review it like a real PR. One thing worth knowing upfront. Most recruiters or interviewers will ask you what language you're most comfortable in and give you the code in that language. So don't stress about that part. The skills this round tests are language agnostic. If you can review Java well, you can review Python well. It's the same fundamentals. So 3 things are being tested here. Your technical judgment, meaning can you actually find the real issues? Your communication, meaning can you explain them clearly and hold your ground? And your experience, meaning does it come through that you have genuinely done this 1,000 times before? The last one is bigger than people realize. When I'm interviewing, I can tell within first 5 minutes whether a candidate has actually reviewed production code or whether they've just been skimming PRs at work and clicking approve. It's all in the signal. Alright. Let's talk about how to actually approach this thing. Okay, so let me tell you where I see most candidates fail. In the first 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm serious. The first 30 seconds. The code shows up on screen and the candidate just dives in, pointing out naming issues, fixing syntax, making comments line by line immediately. Before you review a single line, spend 2 to 3 minutes asking the interviewer for context. The reason is simple. This code is part of a bigger feature. You don't know what that feature is. You don't know the constraints. You don't know the inputs. You don't even know what's calling it. Without that context, your entire review is going to be shallow, no matter how many big or small bugs you catch. So here are the questions I want to hear from a strong candidate. What's this code supposed to do? Is this part of a larger system? What's calling it? What are the inputs and what's the expected output? Is this a hot path in production? Any scale of performance constraints? Are there specific edge cases the original engineer was trying to handle? 2 or 3 minutes of good context questions will save you 20 minutes of misdirected review. And honestly, this is one of the strongest senior signals in the entire interview. Candidates who ask these questions look experienced. Candidates who skip straight to nitpicking naming look junior. I've written that in my notes many times. Alright, now you've got context. Let's go layer by layer. The first layer is syntax and other obvious issues. Start here. Look for the easy stuff first. Missing semicolons, unclosed brackets, typos in method names, wrong imports, variables used before they are declared. Then look at naming. Variables called X, temp, data2, flag. These tell you nothing about intent. A variable called active user IDs communicates 10 times more than a variable called list. Call it out. Also check style consistency. Inconsistent indentation, missing naming conventions like camel case and snake case in same file, comments that are outdated or misleading. And those outdated comments, by the way, are worse than no comments at all. They actively lie to the reader. There are two reasons to start here. One, it builds momentum. You're warming up, finding wins early. Two, it shows the interviewer you're methodical. You notice the easy things before the hard things. But here's the trap, and this is where I see strong candidates lose real points. Don't stay in this layer too long. The most common mistake I see is candidates spending 15 or 20 minutes on every tiny style issue. By the time they move on, half the interview is already gone, and they haven't even touched the real bugs. So spend 3 to 5 minutes here, then move on. The second layer is redundancy and structure. This is about how the code is organized, not whether it works. Look for repeated code. The same 3 lines of validation copy-pasted in 4 different places, put it into a helper function. The principle here is dry. Don't repeat yourself. Every duplicate is a maintenance form. Change the rule in one place, forget the other 3, and now you've got a bug in production. Look for magic numbers. A random 86,400 sitting in code with no explanation? What is it? It's seconds in a day. But why should the reader have to figure that out? Replace it with a named constant, seconds in a day. Now the code documents itself. Look for oversized functions. One function doing 5 things: passing input, validating it, transforming it, calling an API, formatting the response. Break it up. Each function should do one thing well. This is the single responsibility principle, and interviewers love hearing it called out by name. Look for the dead code, unreachable branches, commented out blocks from 3 versions ago, unused imports, delete them. And then look at abstraction boundaries. Is the business logic tangled up with database code? Is the UI code making HTTP calls directly? That's coupling, and it hurts the codebase long term. A quick note on how to phrase your findings here. Don't just say this is duplicated. Instead, say validation logic appears in 3 places. I would extract it into a helper called validate user input. That way, when the rules change, we only update one place instead of 3. And the intent becomes clearer at each call site. See what I did there? I named the findings. I named the fix. I named the benefit. That 3-part structure is exactly what the interviewers are listening for. The third layer is logic and correctness. This is where most of the points are won. So slow down here. You actually have to read the code, line by line. At every step asking, does this do what it's supposed to do? Here's what to look for. Off by 1 errors. The loop runs from 0 to n where it should run from 0 to n minus 1. Or it uses less than or equal to when it should just be less than. These bugs are everywhere, and they're surprisingly hard to spot because your brain reads what it expects, not what's actually there. Force yourself to slow down. Wrong comparison operators. A less than sign where it should be greater than. An equal where it should be not equals. I've seen strong candidates completely miss these, even when they're right in front of them. Read every operator deliberately. Incorrect return values. The function is named getTotalPrice, but it's actually returning a count of items. The name lies. The behavior is wrong. Data type issues. Comparing a string to a number. Comparing object by reference when you wanted value equality. Integer overflow in a long calculation. State mutation bugs. A function that's supposed to return a new list but quietly mutates the input instead. That silently breaks every caller. Null handling. Every time the code accesses a field on an object, pause and ask, what if this object is null? This layer is where real experience shows up. The interviewer already exactly knows which bugs are planted in the code. They are sitting there watching to see if you find them on your own. If you miss one, they'll probe. They'll say something like, Take another look at line 47. Or are you sure this loop terminates correctly? When that happens, listen closely. They are handing you a clue. Don't dismiss it. Don't defend what you said before. Just go back and look again. The fourth layer is edge cases and error handling. Good code works, great code doesn't break. Walk through the code imagining the nastiest possible inputs. Empty input, empty array, empty string, a null object. Single element inputs. Boundary conditions fail at size 1 more often than people think. Huge inputs. Does memory blow up? Does recursion hit a stack overflow? Special values, negative numbers, 0, very large numbers, Unicode, time zones, all of these have broken real production systems. Then look at error handling. Most candidates barely touch this, but it's where senior level points actually live. When an external call fails, what happens? Is the exception caught? Is it logged with enough context to debug later? Or does the whole request just silently die? Swallowed exceptions are a major red flag. An empty catch block, a catch-all doing nothing. These hide bugs. They make debugging at 3 AM impossible. Retry logic. Is there a backoff? Is the operation idempotent, or will retrying double charge the customer's credit card? Resource cleanup. Are file handles closed? Are database connections returned to the pool? Okay, now here's an important checkpoint. If you're interviewing for senior engineer or engineering manager roles and you cover layers 1 through 4 well, you'll likely pass this round. That's a higher rating. It's genuinely a good outcome. But if you're going for staff, principal or higher, layer 4 isn't enough. You need layer 5. And layer 5 is also what turns a regular pass into a strong hire at any level. Let me show you. Alright, layer 5. The senior level concerns. This is the layer that actually changes your ratings. Most candidates never get here. They spend all their time on layers 1 through 3 and clock runs out and they never touch the senior signals. You're not going to be that candidate. So here's what to cover. Concurrency. Is there a shared state being accessed without locks? Any race conditions? Is there a check then act pattern that isn't atomic? For any backend code, concurrency is where real production bugs actually live. When a candidate brings this up on their own, interviewer notices immediately. Then security. Are user inputs being sanitized? Is there SQL injection potential because someone is concatenating strings into a query? Are passwords or tokens being logged by accident? Are secrets hard-coded? Next is performance at scale. The code works for one user. Does it work for 10,000? Are there n+1 database queries inside a loop? Is the code loading an entire table into memory when streaming would work? Then check for observability. If this breaks in production at 3 AM, how will anyone know? Are there logs at the right places? Metrics? Are errors being tracked or failing silently into the void? Then you can look for testability. How would you test this code as written? Is this even testable? Hard dependencies, global state, static calls, all of these make code fundamentally untestable. Bring this up even if no tests are shown. A candidate who thinks about testability scores well. Also keep maintainability in your mind. 6 months from now, will a new engineer understand this code without having to ask someone? See, you don't need to worry. You don't need to cover every single one of these. Even 1 or 2 items from this layer will put you ahead of most candidates. 3 or 4 signals, staff level thinking. This is exactly what moves your rating from higher to strong higher. Okay, now there's one part of this interview that catches most candidates completely off guard. After the review, the interview is going to ask you to rewrite the code. Often the entire code. This isn't optional. They will ask. It's especially common at companies like Google because the interviewer needs a concrete solution for their debrief notes. Most candidates don't prepare for this part. They think the review is the whole interview and then they run out of time. Please, Don't be that person. Let me share a few tricks that will help you nail this part. The first one, you don't have to rewrite from scratch. Copy paste the original code into your editor or doc and modify it from there. Ask the interviewer if that's okay. They'll almost always say yes. They're testing your code review skill, not your typing speed. I've seen candidates waste 10 minutes retyping the code that was already on screen. In your rewrite, focus on layer 2 and layer 3 changes. Structural fixes, logic fixes, the helper you extracted, the off by one you caught. Skip the cosmetic stuff like semicolons. Those don't show depth. Make sure you narrate as you write. I'm extracting this into a helper. I'm adding a null check here because the input could be empty. Keep talking through it. And if you're writing in a plain doc or a notepad, no ID, no autocomplete, no syntax highlighting, don't freeze up and don't apologize. Everyone knows it's harder without those tools. Formatting doesn't matter here. Logic does. One more thing here. Manage your time well. If the interview is 45 minutes, plan roughly 25 on the review and 15 to 20 on the rewrite part. Don't burn all your time on review. The rewrite gets graded as well. Alright, framework is done. Now the 2 pro tips I promised. These are small moves, but they genuinely decide interviews. Pro tip 1 is communicate continuously. Whatever you're thinking, say it out loud. Why does it matter so much? Because the interviewer can't read your mind. If you go silent for 2 minutes, they have no idea if you are thinking hard or completely stuck. And here's the part most candidates miss. If you're communicating out loud and you do get stuck, the interviewer will actually help you. They'll nudge you towards the bug. They'll ask a leading question that points you the right way. This is real help and it can save your interview. But they'll only help if they can see you are engaged. If you are silent, they'll assume you're lost and they won't be able to rescue you. Now here's the trade-off. If the interviewer has to guide you frequently, that goes into their notes and it will lower your rating. A candidate who finds most things independently always scores higher. But getting a little help and clearing the round is always better than struggling silently and failing entirely. So play the game. If you are going strong, stay independent. If you hit a wall, engage the interviewer. They want you to succeed, but they can only help you if you are actually talking. Now pro tip 2, and honestly this is where a lot of interviews actually get decided. The interviewer is going to push back on at least one of your suggestions. It's part of the script. They're deliberately testing whether you can have a technical disagreement professionally. 2 failure modes I see constantly. The first one, the candidate caves instantly. The moment the interviewer says, "Are you sure about that?" they just fold. "Oh, you're right, never mind." That signals you had no real conviction. You weren't actually sure about your own findings. It's a red flag for senior roles. The second one is the opposite. The candidate digs in defensively, argues for 5 minutes about a minor point. That signals you can't collaborate, and that's even worse. The right move is in the middle. Listen. Actually consider what they are saying. Then either agree with the reason or respectfully disagree with the reason. And when they push back and you realize you are actually wrong, just say it. "You're right, I missed that." And move on. That's a senior move. Interviewers specifically test for ego management in this round, and candidates with fragile ego gets filtered out every single time. One more thing on the tone part. Treat the code's author as a real person. In some interviews, the interviewer will literally role play as that author. So be constructive. Say, "I would suggest," instead of "this is wrong." And always explain why. The reasoning matters more than the finding itself. Okay, so that's the framework. 5 layers, 2 pro tips. Follow this and you are walking into your next code review interview genuinely prepared. And if you want to practice under real interview conditions, head over to BeTopTen.com. You can book mock interviews directly with actual interviewers and hiring managers from top tech companies like Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Oracle. These are people who conduct this exact round at their own companies. You get the full experience. The review, the rewrite, the pushback. and honest feedback on what your rating would have been in a real debrief. That kind of feedback from people who actually sit on the other side of the table is the fastest way to get better at this round. Good luck. You got this. See you next time.